Nigeria, like many other countries of the world, is faced with enormous social challenges ranging from high poverty and unemployment, health and nutrition crisis, educational barriers, regional inequality, large youth population, and subsistence agriculture prevalence, among others. To address these issues, the federal government of Nigeria came up with a social protection policy, which is a veritable instrument in the African development agenda. The lack of social protection has resulted in high inequities, unnecessary morbidity and mortality, low level of education and productivity, which hinder sustainable development in Nigeria. Today on the program, we'll be examining the scorecard of the National Social Protection Policy through the specific outlined programs mentioned in the policy, such as conditional cash transfers, school feeding initiatives, public work schemes, federal support for primary health care, unemployment benefits, pensions, and disability benefits, and more. Hello, thanks for joining us. I am Chana Ejoga. Good to have you join us.
I am the businessman I am today because I scoured the world to find that feeling my clients want to wear. Yes, amen. This country makes it its business to inspire at every moment.
Own your moments in South Africa this Easter holiday. Explore new holiday deals at southafrica.net. Come journey with us.
Now it's time to know what is in the news. Up next is News Update.
The National Association of Nigerian Students, NIPSS, has inducted the Director General, National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Professor Ayo Omotayo, into the NIPSS Integrity Hall of Fame. The event took place during a courtesy call on the DG at his office in Kuru, Jos. Speaking on behalf of the NIPSS President, Comrade Tijani Abdul, said the award was necessary considering the Director General's immense contribution towards the development of education, youth empowerment, and the growth of humanity in Nigeria.
Our visit here married with the presentation of not only this award of excellence as the NIPSS Integrity Hall of Fame, but to equally tap from your wealth of experience so that it will prod us to the path of proven success. We are identifying with you today because you are one among the leaders that will advise the leader, the elite of this country, so that we can do away with these menaces that have been bedeviling this society. A country that is at peace will always experience development. A country that is disorganized will have it very challenging to face that.
A member of the delegation, Comrade Gabriel Joel, extolled the virtues of the DG, describing him as a patriot and quintessential gentleman par excellence. As a recipient of the NIPSS Integrity Hall of Fame, a consideration made through dint of hard work and selfless commitment to the cause of one great Nigeria.
This is an era for great patriots like Professor Ayo Omotayo and his contemporaries to be unveiled into the Hall of Fame to celebrate and not allow them to deviate. Any generation that does not know where it's coming from does not deserve to exist in the history book.
High point of the visit was the induction of the DG into the NIPSS Hall of Fame by Comrade Tijani Abdul on behalf of over 70.1 million Nigerian students as a mark of his transformational leadership and development in Nigeria.
On behalf of the over 70.1 million Nigerian students, sir, the NIPSS Integrity Hall of Fame award was presented to our most amiable father, Professor Ayo Omotayo, the Director General, National Institute of Policy and Strategic Study, NIPSS, Kuru, Jos Plateau State, as the vanguard of good leadership and epitome of hope in recognition of your devoted public service, purposeful leadership, and educational transformation. Congratulations, sir.
Speaking to the delegation, the DG thanked the students for the honor bestowed upon him. He, however, expressed his sadness over the state of insecurity in the country and called on the students to intervene and take part in nation building.
Let's see our youth do something different from what is obtainable and show that you are daring, show that you are actually great, and show that you will rather die here in Nigeria than be a chambermaid with a degree.
The NIPSS Integrity Hall of Fame was conceived as a befitting gesture to honor worthy individuals whose attainments in life have impacted positively on the life of the citizenry. Olamilekan Ogunshina, reporting for NIPSS Policy TV.
Own your moments in South Africa this Easter holiday. Explore new holiday deals at southafrica.net. Come journey with us.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Policy Focus. Now back to our topic. Today on Policy Focus, we are on Nigeria's social protection program, and we'll be looking at the level of implementation of the policy and other issues surrounding our national policy on social protection. There are emerging social challenges on a daily basis based on the critical situation we are in Nigeria. The policy also verged to enroll at least 20 million vulnerable Nigerians in one social safety net program by 2020. This target is towards creating a stronger, right-based social welfare system for all Nigerians. In all of this, the questions remain: where are we? Have all the retirees in Nigeria been able to access their pension and gratuities? What is happening to the health of Nigerian workers after retirement? Can a poor Nigerian parent afford school fees for their children? And what is happening to our teeming young, talented graduates? To address these issues and many more, in the first part of this two-part program, we have an expert who is extensively versatile on this issue. Let me welcome a board member, Network of Social Protection Advocacy in Nigeria, and the country director, Give Directly Nigeria, Dr. Iyowagwa Apera. Thank you for coming on the program, sir.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
So, the National Social Protection Policy stated in its objectives as providing support and protection for vulnerable populations in Nigeria. Given the circumstances in the country, do you think this goal is achievable?
Government must wear a holistic lens to look at it multi-sectorally, bringing each sector to various contribute to it. So we look at health, for instance. We must stop looking at health from purely the medical aspect, right? But it has a socioeconomic aspect to it that is huge. Perhaps why the government of day is smart to say move social development to health. But you must look at it from that point of view. Health without looking at the socioeconomic dynamics of it will not be health at all. You would meet your supply side by equipping your hospital, getting the professionals and the expert there, but you will not achieve universal health coverage, or you might not achieve your health indicators towards your SDG because the demand is not there. The people cannot simply afford to get to the hospital, even if the hospital services are free. So it has to look at it from a multi-sectoral approach. So when you look at it from that lens, you will see that because we have this deficit in each of these sectors, we cannot say we are making any meaningful inroad towards the SDGs.
So in your opinion, what do you think the government should do to see that we are part, or we are taking steps towards fulfilling the SDGs?
First, government has to deal with the issue of providing leadership, coordination. Then government needs to show, by showing clear leadership, is to bring out a clear agenda. This, we are tackling poverty. We are not going on the bus and doing social investment and being apolitical and all of that. But we are being very, very strategic to say, okay, how do we solve our poverty question? I would say, I will centralize all of our efforts on the social register of the poor and vulnerable. It has been thrown into a lot of debates, and I always ask people, I tell people that if you don't just throw it to the debate, which is good, scrutinize it, which is good, but it is still today the most comprehensive individual database in this country. 136 sets of indicators, 13.5 or 13.6 million households, made up of 64 million individuals. This is a huge database. Now just take it that you center all of your investments around 64 million people. Within that social register, you have a percentage of about close to 18% of that number are youths without employment. So you say you restructure your Empower program into a social protection initiative for jobs, access to jobs, vocational opportunities for the poor and vulnerable. You take this 18% out of that and you put them into very constructive or lucrative job experiences to set them up and give them support to start up businesses of their own interest, for instance. Out of that, close to 45% of that are farmers. And out of this 45% who are farmers, they are basically subsistence farmers. Take that 45% and do a farm input or agricultural grant strictly to them. And then see how much food they are producing. And you go down the chain to set up various structures to ensure that they have the agri extension services that they need. They have the farming inputs that they need. They have good markets for their produce. Then come back here and see that close to 29% are children of poor and vulnerable parents that cannot access school. So kind of restructure your school feeding program to say, I'll give free meals to these 29% children of poor and vulnerable to smoothing their condition, improve their dietary condition, thereby investing in our cognitive capital development for our children, but giving them access to school. And then, of course, you can give discounted meals to parents whose children are still in these public schools that are not under extreme poverty, right? That way, it is also cheaper for government to advance homegrown school program. Currently, as it is, it's completely not sustainable. It's too expensive. It's unbearable, right? Then come back to the social register again. You'll see that close to 29% of them have small-scale businesses. Invest in small-scale grants to these poor and vulnerable homes. As little as 20,000 naira is enough to perhaps expand an akara business. Yes. Move it from a 1 mudu of beans business a day to a 5 mudu business a day model. Making sure that you expose this person to more income. Then come back and ensure that you link everyone here with NIPSS and with BVN, making it easy for you to track, making it easy for you to cut out fraud, because you are digitally paying these people and you can follow the trail. You make it very transparent. You push out the results out there. Then the angle of collaboration comes in. the UNs, the USAID, the DFID see how transparent government is running this, and they come in and push their capital. Of course, all the development capital that comes in Nigeria is less than 1% of our GDP, but it is a significant contribution to a transparently run system led by government for these monies to come in and be purposefully applied in a way that government is also able to measure. Now, put this investment in this. In less than 5 years, you will move this 65 million out of absolute poverty into perhaps the angle of a multidimensional poverty situation. But that will also not exist. That will also gradually be being eliminated. Why? Your purposeful investment in improving access to education through school feeding program, through supply of books, free education up to JSS 3, your access to free health and equipping hospitals and all of that, when they push them out of extreme poverty, they have all of this access, their income is being improved, and in less than 1 to 5 years, you are able to see tangibly what you have done to move out of poverty. So this is what government can do.
Okay, how will you describe the level of empowerment given to the poor and people vulnerable to economic shock in line with this policy?
Government made the first attempt at designing a shock responsive initiative post-COVID. Now, during COVID, there were a number of initiatives that government started, one of which was we immediately launched into providing medical care, access-free, test, etc., which was great. Then government established what we called then the Rapid Response Register, which was Nigeria's first scientific targeting mechanism, identifying urban poor areas and pulling the urban poor into a social register of the poor and vulnerable that then they access. At the time, government had the budget for it was just about 30 billion naira to do 1 million cash transfer of 30,000 naira to only 1 million people, right? Now, this was a step in the right direction, but too little a drop of water in the pond. I will not say the ocean because the ocean is too large. It was a drop of water in the pond. Estimates and various literatures either by the World Bank, UNDP, etc. put it that at COVID, further 10 million Nigerians dropped to the poverty, below the poverty line. Remember, we had 40%, 40.1% those who are poor and vulnerable, estimated at about 82 million before COVID. Post-COVID or during COVID, 10 million fell in, so that's about 90 million. However, government was able to do only cash transfer to 1 million people. So you see, little effort, good effort, but too little. Why? Because we did not as much put that lens from that evidence-based structure. But when you compare that to the countries like America, UK, what did America do? America simply gave about $1,000 to poor and vulnerable homes across America. What did that do? It immediately stimulated revamping America's economy, because evidence show that when you give unconditional cash transfer, for instance, 68% of that amount of money is used for consumption. Every human being must feed first. So when you give 68% of that, say, to food consumption, what does it do? It raises demand. And when demand from our elementary economics, because I'm not one, when demand comes up, supply must come up to meet. So demand has suddenly put pressure on supply. The business people, they're looking at this opportunity. So somebody that stocks only 5 bags of rice, because there are now people who are empowered to buy this rice. They will go to go and increase their stock so that they will meet the demand. Because now somebody has, an average home, has money to then extend its dietary conditions towards rice and buying rice, right? Then the wholesaler is going to mount pressure on production. Production is going to raise to meet this demand, creating jobs. So you see, the people that the government has given the cash transfer here that were out of jobs suddenly find access to jobs because the industries begin to employ because they need to produce enough to meet it, right? What then happens to government? Because the sales and income after tax for companies have increased, the tax will do what? Increase. So for every 1 naira the government is investing in, say, cash transfer to empower the poor and vulnerable, there's a return of 1 naira, 35 kobo, 36 kobo. Now I'm reducing this to naira just to bring it home. But the analysis you see in literature is mostly in dollars, right? So for every $1 invested, there's a return of about $1.36 or thereabout. So government is actually smartly revamping its economy by pushing cash and empowering the poor and vulnerable. Because the poor and vulnerable are not going to go and put all of these monies into assets to buy dollars and push it out of this country. No, they're going to go and put 65% to consume food. They're going to use 28% of that in investing in small businesses. And as they invest in small businesses and stay in our local markets to sell, what is happening to our community tax? The local governments are earning because the markets suddenly start booming. The farmers are there. Now, this same small businessman or wholesaler in the village that has suddenly increased his stock of rice from 2 bags to 5 bags, begin to say he wants to expand the space of his store because it is too small. He wants to build. Who is he going to look at? The poor artisan that has been dormant and lying fallow in the village without income, that will be the one to come and build. Suddenly you've created jobs within this economy. This artisan also has jobs. You see how multi-sectoral it is for empowering the poor and vulnerable only through cash transfer. And this is just, I'm looking at this just from that small lens, just to bring home how efforts to empower the poor is not dashing money, but it's a smart investment in unlocking our economic fortunes in this country. So when we removed oil subsidy, which is the right move, and the president was very clear, we should not be subsidizing the rich. Now, what do we now want to do with this? Empower the poor. Bring certain initiatives that push a level of comfort to the poor to empower them. So first, you do a cash transfer, which is the first move everyone will do, which has been shown to show evidence. And I've just given an example. Give transport subsidies to the poor and vulnerable. So for instance, you have your NIN linked to your card, and your card is linked to transport. So what you do is the government simply subsidize transport. And then give an example of that. You're living in Nyanya here in Abuja. You used to come to the city center for 100 naira. Now government through the registry or through whatever means identify this urban poor, gives him a transport subsidy. Because now that oil subsidy has been removed, transport from Nyanya to the city center has moved from 50 naira to 100 naira. Government subsidizes it by 50 naira through that card. So he swipes his card as he's entering the bus. The card takes 50% of the transport and then he pays only 50%, which is what he was paying even before the subsidy. So government has put him back at the place that he is. Less pressure on him, right? So that then means he is able to still commute to the city center to do the business. Remember, the poor and vulnerable, urban poor and vulnerable are the engine, are the oil that oils the wheels of our urban centers. They are the janitors, the cleaners, they are the civil servants of grade level 1 to 6, they are the traffic officers, they are all of those put together. They are our chefs, they are our tailors, they are our big bricklayers, etc. So they continue to oil the wheels. There is also less pressure on your middle income earners. So my electrician is not charging me 5,000 naira for a service of 2,000 naira. Because when he charged me the 5,000, he's telling me, oh God, the transport from Nyanya is now 100 naira. So I want to factor that transport in. his transport is still 50 naira. So he will not necessarily charge me that because I also know. So I'm able to price him that guy who is charging me 2,000. No, they remove oil subsidy. I'm going, no. Government has given you transport subsidy. Government has given you electricity tariff subsidy by giving you a card that when you go to load your credit, you have 50% discount. Putting back, giving you that capacity to pay for 2,000 naira that you used to pay. Government is paying the other 2,000 naira. You see how investing and empowering the poor suddenly has a multiplier effect on the entire economic structure of the country. So middle income earner is left at this level that I am, and no less pressure on me because there is no corresponding increase in services, because government has gone back to empower the poor and vulnerable and reduce the pressure. Now, there are no guarantees that this will reduce prices or inflation or everything, but if holistically government is attaching around it, when you then empower the poor, you subsidize the structures that sustain your economic growth.
Okay. So what do you think this policy, what do you think it says about human capital development?
Nigeria ranks about 153 out of 158 countries on the Human Capital Development Index. We have one of the worst in Africa, perhaps the second worst or third worst human capital development indicators in Africa, right? And human capital development major entry points are your health and education, right? We have the highest number of out-of-school children in Africa to that extent, which means we have that large number of ready guns. We have the worst malnourished figures, one of the worst in Africa, which means we are very deficient in basic cognitive capital development of the country. In 2019, the federal government came out with a policy in January, a policy statement that says they will focus on investing in the first 1,000 days of human life. That is when the child needs correct nutritional balance to with his cognitive development that puts and enhances his productive capacity going down the value chain. So because he's malnourished and his cognitive development is deficient, it impacts on his ability to be productive. So it impacts on his intellectual capacity and in his intellect. He's not able to differentiate from what is constructive to what is not. He is also very poor living in the village. He has not seen, on average, people in Nigeria, and this is no joke, go to the villages. There are people in Nigeria who are up to 35, 45 years old who have not seen 10,000 naira at once as cash. So when a bandit leader comes and say, if you take this gun and go to this village, look at 10,000 naira. He imagined 10,000 naira as 1 billion naira. Because first, he doesn't have that. He's not as maturely developed within his mind to relate that 10,000 naira to what it will do to him or the impact that it will have. Right? So, little steps in investing in the first 1,000 days of our child. And that's where I gave an example of concentrating your school feeding program on children of the poor and vulnerable and ensuring that you improve their direct condition and investing in that. Using agricultural extension services to give proper education to our farmers on how the best they can even do homestay gardens that improve their capacity to feed their families well will also go a right way to helping. So our human capital development indicators are very poor. Government needs to, beyond poverty, begin to also look at how do we improve our human capital development indicators, health and nutrition. But through that, using that lens, extends to other human endeavor challenges: nutrition, food security, poverty, providing safety nets for the poor and vulnerable, for tackling risks of exposures to humanitarian crisis, man-made and natural disasters, putting effective structures for anticipatory action, i.e., we know every year there are flash floods in Kebbi, in Jigawa, in other parts of the country. How prepared are we in providing safety nets for communities around these areas in a way that once these triggers come in, government is able to step in and provide support for relocating these families to where they will stay and still continue their endeavors. So it is also multidimensional in that space and that sense. So investing constructively in bettering our very, very poor human capital development indicators overall contributes to our poverty question as well.
In your opinion, what are the guiding principles for managing social protection projects and programs in Nigeria?
First, the social protection policy is very clear and articulates most all of these measures. I'll come first from the point of view, apart from the governance structure, the coordination, the collaboration, it must be evidence-based. We must invest in evidence and data as a driver to our human capital development efforts. We must initiate policies that are based on evidence, right? This will be, for me, the guiding approach to solving our problems. So when you come from that lens, we'll begin to get it right. The next stage, of course, is your coordination and collaboration and clear leadership. The next is clear accountability structures. We must imbibe accountability structures in the fabrics of our public lives. The community must hold the community leaders accountable. They must hold our local government leaders accountable, our state government, and our federal government. Here is where the civil society organizations that we have a huge role to play, because they understand the local context in the various communities, they live within the communities, they can hold the structures accountable. So government in all of this initiative must be deliberate in igniting right accountability structures that ensures transparency in our implementation efforts of not only this policy, but all government initiatives. That way, the tenets or the provisions of the policy will be upheld. We'll be able to monitor progress, and we'll be able to monitor the impacts of this initiative towards reducing the poverty question in our country.
Okay, so talking about the progress and monitoring this, my next question is, do you think that the policy has so far promoted cohesion, social cohesion, equity, and growth inclusiveness?
It's early days for the policy. The first policy came in place about 3 years ago. The next one is being reviewed and was supposed to have been, the review was supposed to have been completed in 2022, 2023. So it's early days yet. The first policy was signed by the Federal Executive Council in 2017, I think October, November. From there to now, it's early. So the policy must have a home, which is planning. But planning must be given the adequate support and capacity to be able to come up with clear agenda and monitoring instruments to monitor implementation efforts that tells you how far it has gone towards that. Now, in Brazil, for instance, Brazil holds this every 2-year policy agenda review to their social development initiative. So they come together, they set the review in the last 2 years, what has happened, what is the impact, and they tie it to their social register, which is a huge center of excellence that has various indicators that track every single government social intervention in that regard, right? And it is integrated. And so they say, okay, so these 2 years, this is what we have done. Then they see the gaps. So perhaps this next 2 years, the gap we've seen is in school enrollment. The gap we've seen is in youth employment. The gap we've seen is in XYZ. So the next 2 years, our efforts will be tailored to policy directions and investment and budgeting towards solving this. Then these 2 years come, you then measure, because this is what is informing your budget. That's why for the federal government, the social register, for instance, was deliberate in that it was institutionalized and put in the Ministry of Planning for every single state of the federation, because it is a state asset. Using that data to drive budgeting holistically gives you a clear indicators measuring impact. So if at the end of the year you can track sectorial allocations based on the baseline that you have with your data, you then measure the impact by simply doing an assessment of how far this baseline that you've taken from the data has improved, tells you the impact. Then also says to you which other sectors have gaps. So your next year budgeting then is focused on filling those gaps. So you're constructively monitoring impact and progress, and then you are then planning in the following years to plug the gaps. So gradually you'll be closing the gaps. Gradually you'll be closing the gaps, and you're having the opportunity to review if there are further gaps in areas that you've closed to enhance your efforts towards closing the gap. So you will be constructively investing purposefully to closing those gaps to enhance the economic fortunes of our country.
Now we join the program for more. There would be a concluding part in our next episode. Stay with us.
Government, we promise one thing, but it's another thing that we are seeing. When government promise that, for example, they will be helping the small-scale business people, actually they might have good intention towards that, but my problem is that they don't follow the final result. So I will advise that even if they have that intention or they put that policy in place, it's good they set up a committee to, you know, after maybe like 1,000 people are the people who are supposed to benefit in this thing, let the committee checkmate that aspect to be sure that, yes, this thing reach the finished product. That is the people who are supposed to benefit from it. Look at me now, I'm here. I've never benefited anything. It's not just small biscuit and mineral. I'm a senior citizen, retired staff. I'm just managing with this small thing that I'm selling. If I have opportunity of getting that help from the government, my shop will be full, and it will go a long way to help me in my business to grow and my family. So I believe that as you people are talking to me, you take this message to them. Let them have a committee set up so that they will follow it to the final stage.
Even when the government releases this money, the people that are supposed to distribute it, they will not distribute it effectively. It will not go to where it's supposed to go. So that is why I'm saying that it is better if they can help us and bring the prices of all those things down. Go to markets and see where they are hoarding things or their warehouses. It will help us more than to say they are distributing money. And at the end of the day, you don't know who they distribute the money to, and you don't know who we help. For me, I've never had that kind of a thing. And nobody have ever given me anything. So I prefer that the things are down, then at least we can start from somewhere.
I have never benefited from any of those things. The government will say it, but the beneficiaries are always the people that the things will come into their hands. Just like the issue of agriculture. When the government say they are bringing fertilizer at a very cheap price, the price will be low. Once they bring the fertilizer, it's the same government and their people There are people, there are family people that will get the fertilizer. When they bring it out, you hear that the price is still double of the prices that the government have asked them to sell. So what is the beneficiary now? That means there is no benefit for the poor masses. You understand, ma'am? That means there is no benefit for the poor masses. And if we talk about the issue of the health, go to the hospital and see how poor masses are suffering. You will see somebody lying down, he has been discharged already, but there is no money for him to pay the bills. So if you are talking of government giving people health insurance, governments are not giving anybody health insurance. If they are giving health insurance, they are the people and the leaders of the state, the country. Once anybody has been discharged, those kind of people that doesn't have money, people have billions of naira ringing in their account. But somebody will be looking for 200,000, 150,000 to be discharged from the hospital. He'll be lying down there. There's nothing he can do about it. And nobody among the government officials or the leaders of the state will say, let me come out and pay so that this person can be discharged.
You hear it, but implementing, I am not seeing it. Look at my father there. He has been waiting for his pension all this while. And now we can't even afford taking care of him in the hospital again. So what they want me to say, there's no hospital that you say this is a government hospital, that people will go and be answered by government, except your pocket. It's wrong. One. Secondly, my daughter, the school that we have been paying 65, I was complaining, now is 100 and. Where is the social there? No. Number 3, look at now when you get to the market, there's no price control. You buy egg, a crate of egg with 3,200 naira yesterday in the morning. In the afternoon, you go there, they will tell you 3,500. Where? No. And now the 4th one that is so paining. There's no price control. How can the dollar will be buying fuel from me that is using naira? That controls everything, because the transport that I will enter from here to Bukuru or to just to go and buy this thing is too high. Let them bring something like train, locomotive, let anyhow that it will be cheaper for the children. For the children of this Nigeria, anybody that is hailing from this Nigeria should enjoy what we have. But other people are enjoying it while we are not. They tell us social. I don't see anything social. It's too crude for them to tell us that it is social. It is not social. Economically, if there's no price control in our country, Nigeria, there's nothing that is going to work. I will sell my own at 300 naira. The other person will sell his own 700 naira. Let the government take policy. If they say it's a policy, let it be. In the morning, there's somebody that has to take care of this thing. Go around. Who is selling? They go to filling stations and tell them that you have to sell your fuel like this. But they'll sell it to the black marketers. They come and sell it at a higher rate that I cannot afford it. If I cannot afford it, when I buy my egg 3,500, I will sell it 3,800. It's bad because there's no control. Let them try and do it for us in a way that everybody will be enjoying it. Talking of, they keep deceiving us that they are paying money to people. That word is not correct. They are just doing it in the periphery. We are not seeing it correctly, because it is not everybody that have bank accounts. The agent, they don't have. Some of them don't have to. They have to use the other way around. If this money that they are going to pay, what is 30,000 naira? What is 30,000 naira compared to me, my family? I have 3 kids. I and my husband, and my aged mother and father at home. How will I be able to take care of them with 30,000 naira? It's too meager. Let them forget about it and do the price control, and everything that is supposed to be should be. Because if they don't do it, the one that are coming out with their certificate, they can't earn money to do anything. They are earning this money before 3 weeks. They don't have money again. The remaining 4 days, what would they do? They will enter another way, corrupt. Everything will be spoiled. They will go to the railway. You see, they begin to remove irons on the way because they don't have money. It's not encouraging, but let the government do theirs. Then we too will follow.
It seems like this policy is not really benefiting a whole lot of Nigerians. So it would be very helpful if the government would hear us and be able to make it beneficial to Nigerians, because the current situation of the country is very hard. So this policy would be able to just make things easier and better for Nigerians. Like, I work in the health sector, and so there are a lot of policies that are not really beneficial to us. Like the NHIS policy is very leverage it. So these policies, if the government is able to expand these policies to benefit the Nigerians, I think it will help to cover drugs, money for treatments that will cost a lot. If they can help to just make it easier, I think it will benefit a lot of Nigerians.
Hello and thanks for joining us. Today on Alumni Chat, we have Professor Shola Adeyonju, MNI, who is the Head Public Affairs Department of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. It's good to have you, sir.
It's nice being with you.
Thank you. So, what has been your experience as a participant?
Well, my experience as a participant is a very interesting one. Interesting because mine was a peculiar case, in the sense that I've been working in the National Institute, and I've been part and parcel of the training of many of the MNIs who have now come back to become directing staff. So it makes it it's supposed to make it easy, but it wasn't exactly like that. So it was a very interesting experience. I had the cooperation of everybody, and some people that have passed through me, I had to pass through them. So it was like a role reversal, so to say. Yeah, but it was interesting.
Thank you. So how has this experience impacted on your person and your career?
Well, what I discovered is that it is one thing for you to be a trainer. It's another thing for you to also be trained in the same process. And that makes a world of difference to me. It opened my eyes more to acquiring more knowledge, but more importantly, knowing what it feels to pass through the 10 months of training as a member of the National Institute. It's the knowledge is not quantifiable. If you have not gone through it, you just cannot describe it, because it gives you room to also, apart from the group dynamics, it also tells you to know how to cope with all sorts of people, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hardworking, the lazy ones. It makes you also to be able to go through stress and how to manage it.
All right. And what's your take on the narrative that ANI, which is the Association of the Members of the National Institute, is seen as an elitist group?
Well, I think it was just a circumstantial thing. Because when you can have many elitist organizations in the country. I mean, we have many. But tagging ANI as elitist may be due to the fact that, number one, the graduates of MNI are not many. That is one. But I think more importantly, why this is seen as such is that to be together for 10 months, day and night, gives you that level of bond that is permanent. Even though at the point of doing it, you may never know that you have that kind of bond. But by the time you are through, because it's like people that have gone through fire together, when they survive it, they know, each time they make reference, they know where they are coming from. So that bond is very tight and it's permanent.
What brought about the circumstance of your coming to be a participant?
Well, one good thing about the senior executive course, particularly when you want to become a member of the National Institute, which MNI means, is that there is no another way you can get it. There is no honorary MNI anywhere. And the only way you can get it is to go through the course. And as a trainer before, it doesn't really qualify me to be called MNI. So I had to go through the training. So go through the furnace, feel the impact, know what it means, and then you get your MNI.
What brought about this, the NIPSS Policy TV? It's a pet project, or let me say it's a brainchild of the DG. So what brought about you having Policy TV for the National Institute?
Well, you see, the issue of Policy TV is a very interesting one. For so many years, I have been an advocate of openness to what the National Institute is doing. Because after joining the National Institute and looking at the volume of resources, looking at the volume of researches and results that have been conducted over the years, you discover that there is no problem you want to talk about in Nigeria that has not been touched. All any government needs to do is look back and say, give me your recommendations and implementation strategies. And you know, the good thing is that when you do research reports in the National Institute, it goes with it doesn't stop at the level of just recommendation. It adds your implementation strategy. That is, how will you get that recommendation done? Which means that you're already thinking for government, which is the role the National Institute has been mandated to play, to be a think tank. So you're already thinking for government. But at the same time, you discover that government is saddled with a lot of things, and sometimes they are distracted. So some of those recommendations may be lost on them. And even some of them sometimes may be practically good, but politically difficult for some governments. So, but what we discovered over the years is that, look, these things, we are a national institute, not just federal institute. National institute means that it covers the whole country. You are supposed to be advising both federal, states, local government, and even the private sector. So, and then we now discover that some of these results don't even reach the stakeholders. That is one. Secondly is that the argument, particularly for the Director General, is that, look, policies are not discussed in open arena for so long. Even when you have policies being discussed on the television, it's just for some minutes because of other competing interests on television. So that was how we now came to conclusion. Look, let's have a dedicated television station that will be for policy and strategy. And you know, funnily, when the idea was mooted, it was like a child's play. And now we discovered that there is nothing, no television, no specialized television like that in the whole of Africa. So this is making history, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the things, legacies that we will leave behind. So when there was a need, this was created. And this will now give us the opportunity to say, let's focus on policies, both government and public policies, to see how they could be discussed, how people can get more input. When people have more input, they are likely to know where we are coming from and where we are going. And when we do that, some recommendations will be coming out from that. That our research results also will be coming out to people, so that because people feel that there are some problems that researchers have not looked into. Meanwhile, they have looked into it, they have recommended what should be done. So I think this is the purpose that the television is aiming to serve. And good thing is that almost all the people that have heard about this have been giving us serious encouragement. I mean, people have been saying this is an idea whose time has come. And then the best thing is to just make sure we make the best out of it. So that's about the NIPSS Policy Television.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We have been talking with Professor Shola Adeyonjo, MNI, who is the head public. Our current welfare policies may seem inadequate since lack of access and affordability prevent over 2 million qualified students in Nigeria from attending college or university each year. Therefore, progress on social protection is critical for Nigeria to reach its full potential. We'll bring you the concluding part of this program in our next episode. I'll be seeing you then. I am Chana Ejoga. Thanks for watching.